YouTube, Alan back with potentially maybe a quick video, who knows, I'll probably ramble. But anyway, Nintendo, they've finally quit their teasing, sort of, and unveiled the launch details for the Wii U. And I say sort of because they've left us Europeans in the dark on price. But for the rest of it, we're starting to get a picture, of what we're in for come this Christmas. A lot of it's to be, or it's what I was expecting. So, basically, it's going to be launched in the US first, November the 18th, followed by Europe on November the 30th, and then Japan last on December the 8th. I was actually a little surprised we were getting the console in November here. I thought it'd be December, but sure, won't complain with that. It also does show how things have changed in terms of priorities or market priorities. If you go back to the NES and the SNES days, and even the N64 days, it was Japan all the way. They would be first to get everything, and not just first by a week or two, it would be first by years. So like the SNES was the better part, I think, of 2 years before it got released over in the West, and certainly worldwide launch. Yet here we have Japan being the last to receive Nintendo's latest product. No, it's not surprising if you follow the Japanese sales. Basically, home consoles are in the tank, so it's understandable that they're putting more resources to the American and the European launches. So they're going to capitalize on the expected, Thanksgiving, Christmas markets. No surprise. Price, that was the big one, at least that I was concerned about. So it's going to come as two varieties. We're going to get a basic model and a premium or a deluxe package in America. Now, for the basic model, it's going to cost $299, and as I said, there's no European price. But going from past experience, that's going to translate to €299, if not more. That's just the way it is, and that'll probably be around $199 sterling. If you go by the conversion rate, they should definitely cost less than that over in Europe, but it's just never the way. Even when you take tax into consideration, it's always more expensive over here. No wonder we're getting it earlier than Japan. So yeah, $299, and as I said, the rumour of $199 for the UK at the very least in sterling. Amazon had a listing for it and then quickly pulled it, so I don't know if they'll have one up again. And what do you get? Well, you get the console itself, and you can only get it in white for that price. You get the game tablet or gamepad or whatever they're calling it. You get the power supply, and you get a HDMI cable, and I think that's about the height of it. So pretty bare bones, but then again, you're just buying a system. It's going to then include 8 gig of internal memory for storage. And apparently there's going to be 2 gig of onboard RAM, 1 gig for system operation and 1 for games, something like that. So, interesting that they give a little more details in terms of spec as well. 8 gig of RAM though, that's not a hell of a lot. I mean, I bought a 16 gig SD card for my phone, and it only cost something like a $5 or a bit over it, $5 sterling, so it's, 8 gigs nothing. Now it's only costing a couple of quid, and certainly no more than that when you're talking about wholesale prices, and certainly on the mass market that Nintendo would be buying them. So that's fairly low. Now it's also interesting that they're going to include a HDMI cable as the default video connector. That's a big step, a big change for Nintendo. The N64, everything up to the N64 was RF. The GameCube, I think that came with composite cables, although I know I connected mine on RF, so I get confused on that one. Did it come with RF or did it come with composite? The Wii then definitely came with composite, but obviously there was no HD output. Now the Wii U is going to support, I'm sure, the Nintendo multi-AV out thing. You thought maybe they might give you that, or maybe they might take the DVD player approach. This is a basic package, let's not give them a video cable, because HDMI cable, they're cheap, they're ubiquitous. But no, you're getting a HDMI cable in the box for whatever good that is. At least it's not proprietary anymore. Thank God we don't have to put up a proprietary cable crap, or at least I hope we don't. I haven't seen the back of that thing. So that's the basic bundle. As I said, pretty bare bones. So what do you get for the $350 of the premium deluxe bundle? Well, first of all, the console is going to be black, and they are making it clear that the black color is the premium look. And I'm not surprised. I think in general it's probably a color more associated with a high-end piece of equipment. It's probably a more popular color. I certainly wanted the black one myself, so even if I wanted the base one, I'd be like, no, but I wanted it in black. And you know it's going to come with obviously the same the HDMI cable, the power brick, the console itself, and the gamepad, same stuff. But the console's going to have 32 gig of onboard storage, so 4 times as amount. Again, that's not a hell of a lot really for a so-called premium system. I mean, geez, the Sony PlayStation 3 I got a few years back came with 120 gig. Even the Xbox, which is basically a 6-7-year-old model, came with 20 gig. So 30 gig, I'm sure it's probably flash memory of some description. That's still not a hell of a lot. If you think you're going to be doing a lot of downloading, ripping games to the hard drive for speed improvements, maybe storing media for media playback like the Xbox where you can play your music back, or even doing full retail games download from the eShop, that 32 gig will fill up fast. So I hope you can plug in external SDs or USB hard drives and put in some real bloody storage onto the damn thing. We're at a stage where memory is relatively cheap, really. So Nintendo are cheaping out on that, in my opinion, and what you're getting in the box. So what else do you get then? So you get a stand for the console. I haven't seen that, so I'm not too sure what it's like. You get a stand for the controller. Again, I guess that's great. So pieces of plastic basically, and you get a charging dock for the controller, which made me think: is that not what a stand would be? Surely the stand would be a charging controller, kind of like the Wii U dock. So basically, a lot of this extra stuff is kind of like the extra stuff they threw into the 3DS to upsell its value or to make it seem like you're getting a big bundle. And another piece that they're throwing in is a Wii sensor bar, because of course you need one for backwards compatibility for games that support Wii controllers, such as Rayman, Mario, and probably even things like Nintendo Land. Definitely things like Nintendo Land. You're going to need Wii controllers. You're going to need a Wii sensor bar. In the base model, sorry, you don't get a sensor bar, which I find quite remarkable. The sensor bar is basically just 2 little LEDs in a plastic construction piece and with a tiny little wire going to pick up power. That's it. It's incredibly cheap to manufacture it. I mean, you can replicate it with bloody candles, for God's sake. So it's remarkable that they're taking that out of the base unit. When they manufacture that, it must literally cost them a couple of pennies to make. So yeah, that's one of your premium items. Now, the best premium item, in my opinion, other than the colour, is the inclusion of Nintendo Land as a bundled game. Apparently that's not going to be the case in Japan, which is no surprise because they tend not to do game bundles over there. But we're going, well, at least America, and I think Europe's getting it too, is Nintendo Land bundled in with the premium pack. So if you were planning on getting Nintendo Land, pretty much the premium model makes sense just out as off the bat with that, because they're probably going to look for 40-50 quid for Nintendo Land, maybe a little less because it's mini game compilation, but as it's going to be basically using a lot of franchises, to leverage in terms of popular media, it's probably not going to be that cheap. So yeah, if you were interested in that game, really the premium one's the only way to go. Now, I did think I heard some rumours saying that there was going to be a nunchuck controller included in the premium one. I have a feeling that's not true though. I would be surprised, given that they're not even including a sensor bar in the base one, and clearly they're trying to, they're trying to balance the whole, what do you get for $50? They want to make it seem like you're getting a lot while actually giving you very little. Well, the one other thing to give in the premium pack is basically membership to the Nintendo network at a premium level, and that's basically going to be kind of like a loyalty program. So you can, when you buy stuff online, you might get some discounts, or I think you'll get extra points you'll earn on your card. So think about going shopping in Tesco's or a place like that, and it's going to be the same deal. Not exactly the most remarkable add-on in the world. To be honest, they should be giving it out for free. Everywhere else in retail does it. So there we go. That's kind of what you get, or what we're going to get in the box that we know of so far. I doubt anything will really change, and unfortunately, we don't really know how much it's going to be. It's going to cost over here. They said, oh, they couldn't comment because it's going to be different throughout Europe, and that is fair to a certain degree, because there's going to be different taxations throughout Europe. But they could give a recommended retail price for a couple of zones at the very least. By and large, you usually get the ORP price for the UK and mainland Europe, and that gives you a very good idea within maybe €10 of what the price is going to be. So there was nothing stopping them doing that if they so wanted. Again, it's a bit of a cop out not saying it. So they were the kind of key points that everyone's been waiting for. You know, I've been waiting for myself because I've been on the fence on the Wii U. Normally for a Nintendo console, I'm always quite excited, or have been, for the last few. The 3DS has kind of muted my kind of excitement for Nintendo products in general, but the funny thing is, there's a few things about the Wii U that look really nice, and they definitely have that Nintendo vibe and the Nintendo feel. But on the other hand, now that I know the price at $350 for the premium one, which is, I would have gone for Nintendo Land as one of the launch games, and I'll talk about launch games more in a bit. So $350 is going to be it for me. Is that good value? I guess it's decent value. To be honest, it's more expensive than I was hoping. I had hoped it wouldn't go above €300 over here as their kind of top end price. Wishful thinking, I guess, because when they launched the 3DS at €270, the chances of them launching their home machine the next year for at max €30 more than that wasn't that likely, I guess. But if you look at it, it's going to be nearly €100 more expensive, most likely, than the Wii launched, which up to that point was easily Nintendo's most expensive home console too. So, their machines are getting more expensive now. Of course, you could say adjusted for inflation and so on, but it's still certainly it's a hit to take. I haven't been blown away by the system itself. It's because it's Nintendo, I'll want it and I'll want to pick it up, and I'm sure there will be great titles down the line. Like, obviously for me, I just can't wait till we get the next proper Zelda experience. I know they're going to do an amazing job on it. So I'm going to get it, but whether or not I would say this is something that the mass market will latch onto in the same way that the Wii did, I'm not convinced. I think even with the base model, which I'm sure that they were trying to advertise it from $299, making it seem closer to what the Wii launched at. Good marketing strategy. And Microsoft, of course, took that approach with the Xbox. They had that crappy core bundle, which didn't even have a hard drive, and then forevermore, you can't develop with the Xbox, except because you still have to take into consideration that not everyone would have a hard drive. It's a big mistake to make. At least Nintendo didn't make that mistake. But anyway, I'm rambling. As I said, Nintendo fan, will want it, will get it. Still not convinced for everyone. Now, launch lineup. They haven't really confirmed too much, but there's going to be Nintendo Land at launch day. That's no surprise. I was expecting that to be a pack-in. And there's going to be New Super Mario Bros. 2 on launch day. New Super Mario Bros. Wii 2 or Wii U or whatever they're calling it. I always get confused with those names. And I think that that's another point that I was thinking about the launch, and perhaps there's something of a muted kind of reception to that Mario game. You would think that if Nintendo would come out and say, we're going to launch this new HD console and it's going to have Mario on launch day, that would be a massive announcement, that people would be falling over themselves to get the system, and they'd be saying $300, whatever, $400, just give here, take my money. But it's been kind of like, oh, Mario. And that's not to say that Mario isn't going to be a superb game. I'm sure it is. But I think with the new Super Mario Bros. Range, Nintendo have shown something of a lack of creativity. They're very formulaic. The one on the DS followed by the one on the Wii, it was the same art direction, it was the same music, even the way the level structure was done was very similar, and it feels that New Super Mario Bros. 2 and Wii U are going to really just be going over the same ground. And when you look back at the NES games, 1, 2, 3, up to World, and I know 2 was Doki Doki Panic, but there seemed to be much more creativity and evolution and change while still being great products. And I think that because the new Super Mario Bros. Series has not really evolved that much, I don't think people are as excited as they should be for a Mario launch title. So what else? Apparently we're going to have in the launch window ZombiU, and there's going to be a ZombiU bundle. I'm not too sure the pricing of that or the details, or is it going to replace Nintendo Land or whatever. That's an interesting one. I think that's a good idea to do an alternative to Nintendo Land to kind of target both sets of audiences. And ZombiU does seem to be a bit of a poster child for, look, it's not just going to be what the Wii was. Interesting. Could be a good survival type game, not open world survivor, more kind of Resident Evil on rail adventure game or linear adventure game, but it could still be quite exciting. I'm going to hold out on that one and see what it is. And then Rayman, is going to be there as well. So Ubisoft are going to have a couple of good games. I think Mass Effect's going to be there too, but of course there's the whole, well, sure, everyone's probably played it by now without wanting to. But they're good titles. I mean, if you take away the fact that some of them are older ports, they're good games, or they're looking like they're going to be good games. In the launch window then we're going to have a new FIFA game. Activision have confirmed a lot more support. Call of Duty is going to be there in or around as well. Skylanders Giants is going to be there, and I think there's a James Bond game. The usual Activision stuff. So basically they're coming on board, which is really important. And then they had Platinum Games announce they talked about P1000 or whatever that game was called, and Bayonetta 2 is going to be coming to the system now. I don't know if that's exclusive or what, but I'm sure that would, at least give an indication that we're going to see a broader range of software perhaps than was the case with the Wii. I enjoyed Bayonetta, but I wasn't as bowled over as some people. It's a good game, but I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have been clamouring for a sequel, shall we say. But sure, it's a good sign, if nothing else. They also announced Pikmin, not coming out this year, 2013. Not really that surprising. Pikmin 3's been in development forever. I think they should just keep it in development forever. I don't think anyone would miss it by this age. It's been in development for so long. And Game & Wario is also going to be next year. I don't think they actually went into any more details on games. They said there's going to be 40 games kind of within the first few months. That's a lot of games, so surely there should be some good picks to come out. I don't think they talk anything more about things like Batman, Arkham Asylum, or Arkham City, which I would have thought would be a launch title given that the game's been out for the better part of a year already, and the Lego City game and things like that. But whatever, we'll probably see them sooner rather than later. So one final thing then before I end this, they did touch on the point about extra controllers. If you so want to buy that second gamepad and play 2 players and whatnot, they are going to be really bloody expensive. And I think the price is, they only give a Japanese price so far, but it translated to $160 for a second controller. That's quite remarkable. I can't, if I was to go back to a younger me, and I remember trying to find a Master System controller and I couldn't. And I ended up getting a Mega Drive controller, and it was a tenner. And to me, that was a lot for a controller because it wasn't a game. If I was to be told that, you know, one day companies will be looking for $160 for a controller, I'd be going, oh my god, I'd expect console and controllers and games and the whole works for that much. Jesus, that's ridiculous. That's going to be over £100 sterling. For a control, like, that's remarkable. Now, whether or not it'll be that when it comes over here remains to be seen, because currencies, you know, the strength of one currency affects, you know, the value and so on. But I think that will severely dampen uptake of multi-controller purchases, and I really don't see it becoming a big feature unless you have a case where friends are bringing over Wii U tablet controllers. I don't see people having two on hand, and then the game's been designed to take, you know, to make use of two controllers. It's just not going to be the case. I can't remember if I actually mentioned that there's no Wii U or Wiimote in the box for any of the bundles. That's an interesting point, I think, given that they've gone on about how it's basically going to be backwards compatible and it's a successor to the Wii, and Mario's going to require a Wiimote for multiplayer, Rayman's going to require it, so you'd think that would be something you might consider including. Just it's again like the AC adapter nearly. Well, you might have a Wii, so you already have a Wiimote. Well, what about those people that don't have a Wii, or got a Wii and then sold it years ago because there was no games coming out for it that they wanted? Gotta buy that Wiimote again. Yep, and then I've got to figure out a way to squeeze the pennies. So yeah, anyway, I've rambled on long enough about just launch details. A lot to mull over. I think a lot of people were probably expecting it. It's going to be no surprise. It's going to be an expensive year. I've seen some commentators saying how, well, Nintendo had to get it out because next Christmas basically there's going to be the next Xbox and the next PlayStation, and they're going to be even more expensive than the Wii U's launching it. Now, I find that remarkably speculative. First of all, to say that there will be ones next Christmas. There hasn't even been anything announced on that front. And second of all, to say that they would be much more expensive. Where do you get that figure? Because the Xbox was more expensive and the PlayStation 3 was more expensive? You don't know what direction they're taking. You can't make that statement. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I actually wouldn't be surprised if there is no you know, other console launches next year, other than maybe, you know, reboxes or rebundles or things like that. You know, slim down models. I wouldn't be surprised if the Wii U has the market for at least a year and a half. Unless they've been keeping really quiet over at Microsoft and Sony. But anyway, that's really off topic. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thanks as always for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you got plenty to mull over yourself. And yeah, we'll see you soon with another video. Bye for now.